This is yet another attempt to introduce you to a new concept of inner childhood, healing inner child trauma. Because there are a lot of clinical issues, discomfort, diseases, unpleasantness, tension, tightness, problems that we go through. And behind each one of these discomfort, there is an unhealed inner child of your own past. So let's understand what is this inner child healing all about. In one of our videos, History of the Development of the Human Mind, we've covered a lot about how the human mind has developed over a period of time. Now, this development, of course, I'll take you through as a quick recap. But for detailed history of development of the human mind, please visit the video and watch it so that it makes sense and the connectivity is built to this video as well. So understanding that we were instinctual from the time of evolution when we were very raw. And what do I mean by instinctual is what we thought is what we exactly did without any filters, without any social norms or rules. And then from there, slowly growing from a primitive man, the initial responses to every situation was fight and flight. These were driven by instincts. This is pretty much also the reality when the moment we are born, we are instinctual. We become social as we grow. So a lot of conditioning that comes from our parents, which is about how to fight in a situation or flight in a situation right from the time when we were in our mother's womb. Even that time, we have recorded everything what our parents discussed about even our birth. Now from fight and flight, where there's a simple assessment in every situation, whether can I handle it or do I have to avoid it? As we instinctually flow with this whole idea of fight flight, most of us have also heard about this. In Hindi, we call it sangharsh ya palai. So in situation where we can handle, what we do, we go fight. So in situations when we have resources or tools to fight that situation, we go ahead and tame it. And where in situations where we don't have enough resources or awareness, we choose to escape or avoid. Now that's what fight flight is all. But physiologically, there are different filters that our body goes. And when in situations where we are neither able to fight nor able to flight, play dead or depression. Because the modern day equivalent to play dead, because if you must have, on social media, if you've seen these reels where a cat is chasing the mouse and mouse plays dead, or a duck who's being chased by a dog plays dead. And the moment the cat or the dog gets distracted, they run or seek an escape. Even in the human mind, these animal instincts are pretty much alive. So in situations where we are neither able to fight nor able to flight, we choose play dead. And by the word depression, what we mean is do not pressurize. What am I doing? There is tremendous amount of angst or frustration that is coming up. A part of me, for the trauma that has happened in the past, is standing there to repress, to hold that response. Slowly, as you move forward in time, that part of you, that younger self, is still frozen with that trauma, holding that response of the trauma so that it doesn't bother you as of today, the adult, here in the now. Thought provoking. Yes. Imagine that there are so many such negative, unpleasant associations in the childhood that we've been through, or even as recent as last year, or maybe trauma about losing a loved one during COVID. Anything and everything has been some or the other way affecting us. And that part of us is frozen just like the one which is on the screen in front of you, with great effort, holding that trauma. But that trauma is the tension which is built in the body, in a somatic charge, an emotional charge that you feel every time when there is a similar situation that you're threatened by. Someone doesn't acknowledge you, someone doesn't, look at you, give you attention, give you quality time, sometimes criticize you, condescends you, insults you in front of everyone. These are similar situations where you feel excluded, lonely, not good enough, angry, not understood enough. These are all the situations in which you start becoming restless. Now, that restlessness or the emotional charge is that particular inner child who is now wanting to bounce like the very way the spring Your conscious mind is constantly defending it. It's holding it with repression by denying it or overcompensating or distracting yourself. Instincts are all about survival. The conscious mind is also responsible for you to continue existing. Your conscious mind is your key, where you are looking at your environment, becoming aware, and then making a choice. You're defending yourself, you're participating in something or not participating in something. Everything in your awareness in your day-to-day life that you go ahead and do it is a part of this survival mechanism. But how are you making a choice? Because the on the screen again, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind that you're seeing, witnessing, we grew over a period of time with a lot of these survival instincts where the society started putting a lot of rules. And every system that you are a part of, there are rules. And the human mind is not really comfortable following rules. So the moment there are unreasonable rules as a part of the system, because more the systems that inhibit us. You cannot talk to your boss like that. You cannot talk to your parents like that. Elders have to be respected in a certain way. You have to dwell in the society, you're a part of the society, the community. All these rules actually start bothering us. So even when your parents are wrong, you can't express it. Even when your boss is doing something wrong, where there is an unreasonable pressure that is building upon you, you can't retaliate or you can't say anything. And when such a situation or a system when you are stuck where you cannot express, neither you can escape or express, neither fight or flight, that's exactly the time when the inhibitions start. And those inhibitions, you stop yourself of doing something which is a natural instinctive response that you want to give it out. Sometimes anger, sometimes hurt, sometimes, anxiety, sometimes rage. Any of these emotions, when you start inhibiting, is where the internalization starts happening and the sorrow, grief, heaviness starts building upon your system in the form of the somatic charge that I just explained. And exactly that is the time when we get so bothered that slowly and gradually all the breakdown starts happening. And these breakdowns, because of the internalization, as if there is a pressure that is building and you don't have a venting space or an escape. And that's the time when chronic diseases start happening in the body, like cancer, cervical spondylitis, migraine, autoimmune diseases over a period of time, when your repression and suppression become so severe that your body starts retaliating against its own self. Imagine. And you don't realize you're taking medication, you're going doctor to doctor, place to place, but the diagnosis is just not happening. And when you take all your reports, the doctor tells you there is nothing wrong, but there is a discomfort in the body. And hence, all these discomforts and diseases are called psychosomatic disease. Where in report, nothing reflects, but yet there is something significant that you have to deal with. And that's exactly what suppressed and repressed emotional charge is all about. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about this entire understanding from more rules to systems, systems to inhibitions, inhibitions to internalization, internalization to the breakdown, which is why you're here. You're finding answers to reverse this whole disorder. How do you reverse it? If it was entirely in your control, you would not be looking for the answers. You've tried almost everything and nothing has worked. Perhaps that is exactly where I was once upon a time. And when I started finding my answers, and as you know, I've said this in several of my videos, that the only way out is to go within. So, which is this within part? Where are we going and finding those frozen parts in time in the past? Let's talk about the inner child. So, what is an inner child? That inner child is something, as a definition, a mental, emotional state triggered by the past event. The trigger is what we are not able to handle. And what is it getting triggered by? The past experience, the past influence of the association, which is a part of you that is frozen in time. Your youngest self who's still holding on to the trauma or traumatic association, feeling stuck at it. Please pay attention and read this one more time. An inner child is that part of you that gets triggered. And you don't know why this part is getting triggered. Because the environment is displaying a certain behavior which you felt before and you could not do anything about it. Because if you're able to do anything about it with fight or flight, again, we would not be here. So there are compulsive, impulsive, obsessive or obsessively compulsive reactions that come from all these frozen and stuck parts in time. So let's understand. As we all know that we were born whole. When you say the word heal, which means what? The word heal means being complete, being completely present, being fully present in here in the now. And if suppose this is your timeline, when you were born, you were complete. Each one of them, more or less, without going into the other details of how, karma and the past lives and things that we carry forward. All those I'm not going to go into in this video. Maybe we'll create another video for you to understand how karma works. So at this point, let's assume that we are born 100% with whatever amount of consciousness that we were meant to be born on us through the mother. And as you are being born, you're instinctual, you're learning. Through your socio-economic education and religious conditioning, you're learning about how to cope, how to eat, how to suckle, how to feel secure, how to feel warm, how the care comes in. And that primary caretaker, which is your mother, and the secondary caretaker, which is your father. Again, supposing that they are there with you at the time of birth. Otherwise, whoever is your primary caretaker, that person starts conditioning you for the socio-economic education and religious conditioning. So from being instinctual, we slowly start becoming social. And not all the social norms. In the previous slide, I just spoke about the rules are not always very good. Because the more rules the system, if the system is nurturing, you feel better. But if the system is critical, abusive, traumatizing, highly stressful, of course, there are parts of you, like a trauma one, a part that gets fragmented. That part that gets fragmented moves forward. So what is happening? The trauma one, that part is stuck in the past. And when that part that is stuck in past, you are moving on as the adult of today. Maybe at the age 5, the trauma one happened. Slowly, gradually, now that part is stuck. What is moving forward is the remaining part of the adult. Then let's say this is the initiation, because any belief or behavior comes in from the initiation. The first part, first time when it happened, and you were shocked, surprised. When you look at it, from that shock and surprise, when we move forward, what comes out? From that trauma one that happened at age 5, you observe that there is something unusual that happened in my life. From that unusual event, you move forward, and the second trauma happens, which has a similar shape. Victimization, criticizing, not good enough, trauma where abuse happened, some kind of physical beating that came up, abandonment came up, don't talk to me. Parents always keep telling the child, if you don't behave in a certain way, these are the conditions that parents also start putting. So from that initiation at a different age, maybe the confirmation happened that, see, this is what has been happening with me. Now that part is frozen there as a trauma too. A part of you that is feeling, and see the white gap on the slide. These are the parts that are stuck. So that is the void, the hollow that starts building within us. Now the trauma 3 happens. There is a further part of you that gets frozen in time, which is now the acceptance of a certain belief that yes, this is what has been happening with me. The age and the representation is just used for representation as an example. The ages that I've mentioned here, like 5, 11, 16, these are only the representative ages. For each one of you, it could be subjective. So there's a part of you that got stuck there as initiation, confirmation, acceptance. Now, this is what you believe your life has become over a period of time. And all the hollow, that is the white that is happening, is the unhealed self, because there are these parts, T1, T2, T3, that we've left behind willfully, that are frozen in time. So when you're doing healing, what are you healing? You're healing the effect of the causes of each one of these traumas that you're seeing on the screen. Because every time when there is a similar texture of someone criticizing you, asking you, making you feel accountable, making you feel do something, push that comes out from the environment, will trigger you exactly like how you felt at that age. Because that was the time you were more helpless. Today, as the adult of today, the yellow remaining part is the adult presence. But you're not really able to fully live out through that adult presence. And whenever a trigger comes in, that inner child from the trauma 1, trauma 2, trauma 3, or several other traumas that you've been through, that takes over of your consciousness. And a lot of times you, in an impulsive or a compulsive way, land up behaving in a certain way. And then when the adult takes charge, you feel regret. So with therapy at Antarman, we are introducing you when your subconscious mind has recorded all these traumatized parts. With regression therapy, we go back in time to re-attend, to relive some of these parts. Let me give you an example, because with this slide, I think you all need to spend a little more time to understand how exactly the inner child therapy works. So let me tell you this, a very interesting case when I'm saying the trauma 1, trauma 2, trauma 3. What are these traumas and how do they get to you? So a 28-year-old girl, when she came to me with the feeling that I'm unloved, nobody loves me, and I'm excluded from the environment. I don't belong. And this was coming from her office colleagues where they used to make a plan and not include her, or maybe at times when they are talking. And it's not the office colleagues who are doing this deliberately. This is purely her feeling. So every time when they even are gathering together over a cup of coffee and she feels excluded, and there's a part of her that gets triggered. So I said, okay, when she came for therapy, I understood the objective, and then we said, like, okay, go back to time. What is happening? And where is this coming from? Where is this entire feeling of being alone or excluded is getting triggered? So she went back to her 7th birthday, where she was dressed like a fairy princess. It was the 7th birthday, and everybody was, coming and wishing her. But her aunt came from another city to attend to that birthday, attend to her, and she forgot the gift. This child was very, at the 7-year-old, what are you expecting on a birthday? Some good gifts. An aunt not bringing the gift. She got a little upset. So aunt also felt bad, said, okay, let me take you out. So the aunt takes her out to the nearby mall. And they step out at a time where all the guests are coming. And her father was from the army, very particular about time. But aunt and this little girl at her 7th birthday is out buying the gift. She doesn't understand all this. She's just a 7-year-old girl. Now the father gets restless. One of the couples from the guests, they come and tell the father, okay, we are leaving. Father says, no, please have the dinner. The guests say, no, cake is not cut. It's okay. We'll come sometime later. We just came to give blessings to the child, but she's not around. Now father gets even more furious, and he doesn't want the guests to leave without having dinner. So what he does, in that bout of upset outlook, he goes and cuts the cake, takes the piece, gives it to the guests. Guests, they have the dinner and then leave. But by the time, because obviously the child and the aunt got stuck in the traffic, so they were late. And as soon as the little girl enters with the gift, though she was happy, but now it's all sad that she sees the cake. Who cut my cake? It was my birthday. I am the fairy princess. I should have cut the cake. And she starts crying. And obviously, all the children, they don't understand all of this. As I said, they are instinctual more. By the time you're growing up to becoming a fuller adult, that's why it's a child. And father gets furious. Instead of pacifying her, father goes and beats her in front of the whole crowd, all the guests. And that is exactly the trauma where she's still standing and crying with a belief that is formed at that time. If my father doesn't love me, who will love me? I'm excluded from my own birthday. That's the feeling from where every time, whenever anyone does any other program and where she is not included, she starts becoming the 7-year-old age. Until we revisit it, and I asked her, because these are the traumas that can be re-scripted and worked upon with her. So under hypnosis, she becomes this 7-year-old child and starts crying exactly standing in that very birthday, that event where her father has just beaten. Now under hypnosis, as an intervention, when I asked her, what do you want to tell your father? Now the adult, which is the remaining part of that yellow figure that you're seeing, not the hollow, but the adult goes and stands behind the inner child and says, okay, I am there with you. I'm your guardian. Speak to the father, whatever that you wanted to tell. And now that somatic charge, which you start tapping, and let the 7-year-old speak to the father. And she cries, and under hypnosis, she's talking to her father saying, what was my fault? I was just a little child. Aunt did not get me. She took me out. We got stuck in the traffic jam. Nothing was in my control. When I see this and you hit me, that was the end of it. So what she does is something called hypnodrama with the inner child, talking to the father. And when she released all that tension, under hypnosis, I asked her, what is it that you want to do now? She said, I want to order another cake. And as in the theory of the mind, I've already covered that for the subconscious mind, everything is real. So under hypnosis, whatever that is happening becomes real. Even if it is a facet of your own imagination, where the child expresses the highest path. That in the childhood, when I was hit, I just cried and went back to my room, concluding certain wrong beliefs that were formed at that time. But here is where the father now orders another cake. On her request, she goes and hugs the father, forgives the father. There's a whole lot of hypnodrama that happens between the inner child and the father at that age, where that 7-year-old is still stuck and crying. Now that 7-year-old releases all her anxiety, all her anger, hurt, and the conclusion and the loss of resources. Because as a part of this, impatience was also a part of her, program that she had to deal with. Because every time now she doesn't wait, she doesn't go out, she's right there. So that impatience also causes a certain amount of anxiety. So when she expressed as a child to the father, she ordered another cake, cut that cake, people clapped for her under hypnosis, and then that entire scene with that 7-year-old child integrating and growing to the current age, right till this day. It's an energetic integration because a lot of people don't understand how does this work? How does therapy work? So when you repress a trauma, it will become a trigger. When you go back to that trauma, we recreate. See, the idea of an inner child healing is revisit, recreate, and resolve. So you go back to the trauma, we simulate that trauma once again, and the associated feelings and conclusions that were drawn, they become the basis which you cathartize and went out. When you went out, a new behavior, the highest spark or a highest response will come. And that highest response with which you express and let go of that anxiety and tension, tap that somatic charge, and emotionally reintegrate that power. That's what inner child is all about. And that integration, then when that 7-year-old child comes back to the 28-year-old girl, and when it integrates and settles with no grudges against the father this time, that inner child has settled. Now there is no more repression. That spring has got eased up, it's gone, and that inner child has come back as the adult of. And that's how the healing happens. Thank you for watching this video. Do share this with as many people as you can, because this is what is happening in our day-to-day life in the form of so many triggers that we are trying to deal with.